Gap analysis and development planning. We all know gap analysis is a simple but useful tool that helps individuals and businesses achieve their objectives and improve their performance. It is a study that enables an entity to find ways on how to bridge the gap between the actual and the desired. In this lesson, we will learn regarding gap from employer and employee perspective, planning for development, implementation of plan, and evaluation of plan. After going through this presentation, you should be able to analyze gap from an employer's perspective, explain planning for development, describe short-term and long-term plans, define the resources for employee development, describe implementation and evaluation of plan, analyze the issues in employee development. The future of the workforce is shaped not just by the economic and technological changes, but also by population and generational changes. Generation diversity is the key to a balanced workforce, reflective of the varying ages of customers and society. Next, education options. The proportion of population that has attained at least upper secondary education is increasing over time. The mantra for lifelong education is fast becoming a reality. There are more education pathways and options available today than ever before. Next is more employable. When you keep in mind that this includes people transitioning between jobs and seasonal workers, many economists state that this is basically full employment. Next is work or life balance. For Generation Y, their job matters. However, it is not their life, but rather it provides funds that fuel their life. In addition to their jobs, they may also be juggling study, friends, family, sport, and other work or community involvement. Next, workplace culture. This has to do with the relationships with others at work. Offer variety in their job description and combine it with responsibility and promotions where possible. The ideal supervisor is one who values communication, not just authority, one who leads by example and involvement and not just by command and control. Generation Ys are just beginning their careers, so offer support, mentoring, positive feedback, and public recognition. The right leadership style not only assists with effective work outcomes, it will also help with Generation Y retention. Our analysis of the causes of employee turnover shows the central role that leadership plays in employee retention. Employee analyzes gap through 4 elements. These are trust, hope, sense of worth, and competence. People expect their companies and managers to deliver on their promises, to be honest and open in all communications, to invest in them, to treat them justly, and to compensate them fairly. People need to believe that they will be able to grow, develop their skills on the job and via training, and have the opportunity to advance. People want to feel confident that if they work hard, do their best, demonstrate commitment, and make meaningful contributions, they will be recognized as valued assets rather than mere cost and rewarded accordingly. People expect to be matched to a job that not only makes good use of their talents but is also challenging. Moreover, they expect to receive the necessary training to perform capably, to see the end results of their work, and to obtain regular feedback about their performance. Planning a training program for his or her staff, gap analysis is quickly becoming an invaluable tool. Gap analysis is simply the process of comparing one's standards to actual performance and identifying what the gap is between the two. Gap analysis begins with managers identifying their company's performance standards. Many businesses have written out measurable, clear standards that are communicated to the employees. The second step in gap analysis is for managers to observe their employees and identify which specific knowledge, skills, and attitudes must be developed or improved to bring employee performances up to the company standards. Once managers have determined that training is needed, they must pinpoint on which specific problem to focus. This third step in the gap analysis process determines the skill, behavior, or attitude that causes the gap. Professional trainers have developed several techniques for determining precisely what type of training is needed and which problem is the cause of the observed performance gap. Managers survey other managers and employees through written questionnaires or personal interviews. Managers can watch employees at work to determine where there is a gap between the company's standards and the performance of the employees. Companies have established systems for continuous customer input through comment cards, focus groups, or formal interviews. Employees can then suggest methods for improving performance and set goals to raise performance levels. Managers can perform internal inspections the same way government agencies inspect organizations. There are various short-term programs that can be implemented in an organization for employee development. Job rotation, the short-term movement between jobs, first received attention in assembly line work. It was used to reduce worker ennui and expand an individual's repertoire of tasks. Short-term rotations can range from a few minutes to a few months. Special job assignments can mean researching a problem or issue and developing a solution or recommendation for dealing with a special problem or issue or assuming responsibility for a project. Action learning projects have been gaining popularity. While not always called by the name action learning, they are really a specialized approach to special job assignments. Field trips have become a popular method of fact-finding. They are widely used in best practice benchmarking trips. Developmental field trips need not be restricted to senior executives. The Professional Annual Conference of the American Society for Training and Development exemplifies a typical large conference. There are different tracks of speakers delivering talks concurrently in different rooms. Behavior modeling can also be a more subtle, long-term development method. A think tank is an organization or group formed for the purpose of devoting special attention to a specific problem or group of related problems. Developmental think tank experiences like these serve to broaden the existing competency mix available to the work group. There are various long-term programs which can help in employee development. Mentoring remains a popular buzzword in the employee development field, and much research has been focused on it. Long-term informal mentoring program satisfies a protege's need for specialized guidance by an individual who becomes a role model for them. It also satisfies a mentor's need to pass on a legacy of knowledge and to experience the intrinsic satisfaction of helping others realize their potential. One way to develop employees is to establish a formalized mentoring program for all employees. Such programs have been used in management development. They have also been the focus of generated several excellent and inexpensive resources. A formal mentoring program is established by the direct pairing of individuals. Another way to foster employee development is by long-term formal transfer programs in which individuals are rotated for long periods to other organizations, departments, divisions, work groups, or jobs. Such transfers may last several months or years. The handling of a transfer is quite significant, providing an opportunity for the employee and organizational superior to discuss the individual's long-term development and the organization's need. Employee development is one way to narrow gap between what the group is actually doing and what others want it to be doing. It is appropriate when three conditions are met. An employee development program encourages the preparation of individuals for meeting the collective requirements of a work group or department. It's important to build a solid foundation for the employees so they feel invested in the company. Tell them about the history of the business and the company's vision for the future. Promote an office atmosphere that makes all employees feel worthwhile and important. Most employees are looking for advancement opportunities within their own company. Help employees improve their professional skills by providing on-the-job training or in-house career development. Allow them to attend workshops and seminars related to the industry. Encourage them to attend adult education classes paid for by the company. Reward employees with an unexpected day off or by closing the office early on a random Friday afternoon. Offer people incentives to perform well or something more substantial, such as a performance-based bonus or salary increase. Help employees reach the next level professionally by providing on-site coaching. Assign individuals with tasks you know they will enjoy or will be particularly good at. An employee who is successful at one thing will have the self-confidence to tackle other projects with renewed energy and excitement. In implementation, first examining systemic factors that contribute to the current state, then using the scale to determine the current state is most successful if the group doing this work is assured that they can be honest in their assessments without fear of retribution. The information gathered in this process needs to be written up and reviewed by the team that is working on the improvement plan. If questions arise from this review process, the team could outline a means of investigating the issue to verify it. The intent of this process is to gather information that will be used to develop a future or desired state based on the indicators that are on the gap analysis worksheet. Root cause analysis can then be developed in order to determine the factors that are crucial to improvement. The factors that are identified are then used in the development of goals and objectives for the improvement plan. Read the questions carefully and review indicators for each question. Record the scores on a piece of paper or post-it notes. All participant ratings will be recorded on a larger chart as part of a group process. After effectiveness percentages have been recorded, identify the evidence that supports your perception of effectiveness. To conduct front-end analysis for employee development, the HR manager must work in tandem with other managers in the organization to decide on long-term objectives to satisfy the staffing needs for each work unit. The purpose of front-end analysis for employee development is to pinpoint the most critical long-term staffing needs of each work group in line with strategic business plans. To conduct front-end evaluation for community or stakeholder development, managers need to work with managers in the organization. To field test employee development, start with one work group or department in the organization. Establish a model for employee development in the department or work group that is appropriate to it. Concurrent evaluation controls development efforts against initial objectives to ensure that activities are in line with intentions. The HR department should hold periodic meetings for interested parties to assess the progress of developmental efforts and identify areas requiring corrective action. Use post-development follow-up only when there is a need to change employee organization or non-employee developmental initiatives. Change is appropriate when there is a major shift in strategic business plans, environmental conditions, staffing strategy, or organizational strategy for talent development. Several major issues should be considered when selecting organizational strategy for the development of employee talent. They include past strategy. Strategists look at the past direction and the present direction of an organization in order to decide, in light of expected environmental change, whether a new direction or strategy is needed. Next is degree of environmental uncertainty. The more uncertain and dynamic the external environment, the greater the necessity for practitioners to devise flexible strategies in which contingencies have been planned in the event of radical environmental change. Degree of dependence on key groups. If an organization is highly dependent on one or just a few external environmental conditions, and then strategic choice hinges more on addressing those conditions. The same principle applies to talent development. When managers are willing to take risks in pursuit of outcomes matching the purpose of the talent development efforts, they are likely to perform more effectively than their risk-averse counterparts. In-house politics. Choice of organizational strategy for the development of talent depends on the ability to influence others. Power is equated with the ability to influence. Politics related to power. Timing is thus crucial to success. Organizational strategy for the development of talent is usually comprehensive in scope. It unifies planned learning intended to anticipate the needs of the organization, external stakeholders, the public, individuals, or job incumbents. It is thus very important to identify precisely what talent will be needed to implement organizational strategy for the development of talent. Now let us check if we have understood the various concepts discussed in this lesson clearly. Gap analysis is simply the process of comparing one's standards to actual performance and identifying what the gap is between the two. Right or wrong? Right. Job rotation, the short-term movement between jobs, was used to increase worker ennui and expand an individual's repertoire of tasks. Right or wrong? Wrong. The handling of a transfer is quite significant, providing an opportunity for the employee and an organizational superior to discuss the individual's long-term development and the organization's needs. Right or wrong? Right. Before we end, let us briefly revise what we have studied so far. Planning a training program for his or her staff. Gap analysis is quickly becoming an invaluable tool. Gap analysis is simply the process of comparing one's standards to actual performance and identifying what the gap is between the two. Job rotation, the short-term movement between jobs, first received attention in assembly line work. Action learning projects have been gaining popularity. While not always called by the name action learning, field trips have become a popular method of fact-finding. They are widely used in best practice benchmarking trips. Mentoring remains a popular buzzword in the employee development field, and much research has been focused on it. Long-term informal mentoring program satisfies a protege's need for specialized guidance by an individual who becomes a role model for them. Employee development is one way to narrow gap between what the groups is actually doing and what others want it to be doing. It is appropriate when three conditions are met. An employee development program encourages the preparation of individuals for meeting the collective requirements of a work group or department. To conduct front-end analysis for employee development, the HR manager must work in tandem with other managers in the organization to decide on long-term objectives to satisfy the staffing needs for each work unit. The purpose of front-end analysis for employee development is to pinpoint the most critical long-term staffing needs of each work group in line with strategic business plans. Several major issues should be considered when selecting organizational strategy for the development of employee talent. They include past strategy, degree of environmental uncertainty, in-house politics, and degree of dependence on key groups, etc.